Good morning and welcome to the Interagency Transfer Process Forum for Agency HR and Benefit Administrators. My name is Jolene Christensen and I will be your facilitator this morning. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. From an agenda perspective in this interagency transfer, we're going to start by reviewing some statistics for your information, some process changes that we're very excited to show you today. We'll talk a little bit more about the HR administrator and the benefit administrator responsibilities, both from ascending and receiving agencies. We'll touch on some payroll impacts. We'll go into some QAs at the end for any questions that remain, and then some additional support materials that you will be able to use when you are doing these transfers. We're really grateful for you all joining us today. This is a really important topic and one that I think will be well received.
All right, everybody, welcome to our session. I am going to go over some quick statistics just to give you some context as to how important the transfer process is and exactly the volumes of transfers that go on in our system. So let's look here at, this is actually from the time that Cardinal went live with all agencies back in October of last year. So you can see really there's pretty much right around 500 transfers happening every quarter really in the system. That's a large volume of transactions, and so we're hoping that the changes we're making today are going to make y'all lives a little bit easier, and we'll get to that in a minute. But you can see here from go live we are talking about 2,000 a year of transfers. All right, next slide here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about transfers and how they impact the payroll system. So about 94% of transfers impact Cardinal payroll in some way. They're either transfers from one Cardinal payroll agency to another, from a payroll agency in Cardinal to maybe a university that runs their own payroll, or vice versa. Or they're from two non-payroll agencies. Now, areas for improvement as far as transfers is what we found in evaluating all of the transfers that happened since our go live is about 40% of them are keyed incorrectly in an action reason combination. So by really focusing in on trying to correct those errors, we can really enhance the accuracy of the transactions. And what that really means is making it easier on our associates, because when we get those action reasons incorrect for one reason or another, that impacts their ability to use their health insurance, and we want to avoid that. All right, moving on to our actual process changes. So going forward, and these changes will be effective Monday morning when you come into work, when you do a transfer, the health insurance, the premium rewards, the FSA, and the imputed income will continue seamlessly upon transfer, which means that the vendors will not be notified that the health insurance will terminate anymore and have to be reestablished at the new agency. Another change is that HR admins can now process transfers without having to wait a day between keying the person out of one agency and into another. And the health vendors, Anthem, Delta, all of them really, will be notified by interface file when an employee changes agencies. All right. One other note, OHB, DHRM, and Cardinal are going to have access to new queries to monitor the transfer process. That means that, for example, if agency A transfers an employee out, but that employee never ended up at another agency, we're going to have a query for that to basically find those that don't ever get anywhere. We'll also have a query to look for inaccurate action reasons and just to monitor the process overall. And those monitorings will be done by several different places, by Cardinal PPS team, by DHRM, by OHB. So we just want to make sure that you understand, even though we are changing the process, we are going to be looking at these transactions a little bit more just to ensure that that they're going through easily and with little impact to the employee. Now let's talk about what's not changing. So the savings and retirement plans will still terminate when an employee transfers between agencies. That is not changing. And what also is not changing is agency HR admins must confirm the employee has transferred out before keying the transfer in. And I'm going to tell you why that's really important. So if a agency HR person processes that new job record for that new agency before the old one has terminated them, what's going to happen is that transaction is going to go over to VRS, and VRS, because we have a daily file now, is going to send us their new enrollment for their retirement. And so we're going to load that enrollment in, and they're going to be enrolled in their new plans. And then the old agency finally processes that termination out, which will terminate their new VRS enrollments. So it's really important, again, that you, before you do a transfer in, you make sure that that employee has transferred out of the old agency. All right, if you have any questions about that or concerns, feel free to send us a ticket, but just always remember, you must wait for the employee to be transferred out of the old agency before they are hired or rehired into your agency. All right. Okay, so let's talk about that new process and what the responsibilities are in each area. So we have our cute, I call this a little roadmap to what we're going to talk about today, but the sending agency, you'll notice there's a role for the HR admin to play, which is to key out the employee's transfer. The receiving agency, the HR admin, is going to key that establish that employee's job record in that agency. And then the benefits administrator's job is really just to validate the benefit enrollment to make sure that everything is as it should be. All right, and let's go through those details right now. So for HR responsibilities, you can see here that the sending agency's responsibility really is to use the termination transfer out action reason to terminate employees who are truly transferring to a new agency. And I know what you're saying to me right now, Jill, they don't always tell us. And we realize that, but and we'll talk about that in a minute, but it is very imperative that you use the termination transfer out when they are transferring, because what happens there on the benefits side is when you use the term transfer out, it creates what's called an XFO, a transfer out benefit event. And any other action reason combination other than this termination transfer out will result in the termination of all benefits. That's health, FSA, premium reward, FSA fee, imputed life, everything will terminate, and it will disrupt the services for the employee, okay? So if you happen to know, right, if you know the employee is transferring to another agency, super important to use the termination transfer out. Now, one other thing that that is kind of the sending agencies in their purview, right, is when you are terminating transfer out that employee. So we talked to DHRM about this, and the receiving agency really should consult with the sending agency if they know that this is a transfer to determine the resignation separation date, right? So if the employee is terminating from the agency on October 24th, and that new agency doesn't hire the person on October 24th, and they maybe use November 14th or something like that. They took a little break in between. That is a break in service, and we don't want that. So if there is a difference that involves a few days, we really encourage the former agency to approve the employee use of leave without pay, to expand the separation date so there's no break in service. Now, that is a best practice by DHRM. So if you have any concerns about that, you're gonna want to have your HR person reach out to DHRM for clarification on that. But that is really their guidance on breaks between the old and the new agency. All right. Moving on. Now, what happens if things go wrong? What happens if you terminate someone because they resigned, and then you find out later that they really transferred to another agency? Now, you might have received guidance in the past that you can go in, as long as it's future dated, and fix it yourself, or that you could add another row to the person's job record and fix that. But really, in order to truly fix the entire transaction, you're going to need to send us a ticket to do that, because what we need to do here at PPS, when you haven't used the term transfer out and you should have, is we need to fix that employee's job record in correction mode. We need to reprocess any benefit events to make sure that the benefits in the Cardinal system have been reestablished, and then we need to reinstate coverage with the vendors, which is really the most important part. We need to make sure, because we've told them that they've terminated, we need to make sure that they are reactivated in the vendor system so they can pick up their prescriptions or go to the doctor. All right, so if you find that you need to fix that termination transfer out, you need to send a ticket to Cardinal PPS. All right, and now just an HR action item for you. Because it's so important to have that term transfer out when you're transferring, what we're asking you to do is review and update your exit interview materials. We want you to confirm that you're asking the employee if they're being hired by another Cove agency, and then also explain the impacts to them of not notifying you of the new agency job, which means that their health insurance will be disrupted, and they'll lose the ability to use their FSA card, and we'll have to manually turn it back on. So those are two pretty big impacts, and we don't want that to happen. So I feel like if we explain to the employee what's going to happen, perhaps they might be a little more forthcoming with the information about their new job. All righty. So that is the responsibilities of the sending agency. So let's talk about the receiving agency now. So for the receiving agency, the HR person is responsible for establishing that job record. Now I've put the, if it's a new hire into your agency, someone who's never been here before, your action reason codes to establish that new record are listed below. Now these action reason records, these will result in the transfer event, the XFR, in the benefit system. Now, that XFR event is not available in employee self-service, as benefits are not allowed. Benefit changes are really not allowed on a transfer from one agency to another. The only real change that is allowed in that case is if someone maybe is going out of an HMO network into an area that is not an HMO area. So it's very important that you use the proper code for the incoming transaction as well, because we don't want you to use hire new or rehire, and we'll go over that in a minute, but that might give the employee an opportunity to change their benefits, and we don't want that. All right. Now, here's just another slide very quickly. If you happen to have an employee who used to be employed in your agency that happens to be transferred in, there's a whole new, another set of action reasons that you should be using for the rehires, and I've listed them here. They will result in the same XFR event that will not be available to employees to make changes with. So I talked about this a minute ago, but using the incorrect action reason when someone transfers in, it creates, instead of that XFR event, it creates a hire or a rehire event, which is available in employee self-service and will give the employee the opportunity to make changes that they should not have. So we want to make sure to not use the hire new. Now, before, if you noted, about 40% of transfers are done incorrectly. By far the largest percentage of those are right here when the new agency has a is establishing that job record. They're using hire new instead of the correct code. So please do your best to try to look at that. Now, when you're actually doing the hire, you're going to know in the system. It does tell you you're supposed to search for that social security number. If you do find that it exists, your best bet is to research that to make sure that the person is not a transfer. All right. Let's talk a minute about what to do if you did make that mistake. So what happens if you did do a new hire when you should have done a transfer in? So to correct that, just like before, you need to send a ticket in to us, because if you don't, we will not have the ability to correct the benefits piece of it. So even though you might be able to fix it because it's future dated and you can go in there and fix the action reason, you do not want to do that, because we need to in correction mode, fix that employee's job record, and then we need to go in the back end and fix all the benefit events that were created because of the incorrect action reason being used. All right. Now let's talk about the benefits.
So do we want to pause there? We have some questions in the queue. A lot of them are HR related before we get over to the benefits side and go through some of those questions, which will be, clarifications. So let's start up at the top.
Sounds like a good idea.
All right, the first question, to clarify, we no longer need to manually rekey benefits for transfers.
That is correct.
So we'll all like a round of applause. That's really exciting news. That's like bearing the lead there.
I know, right?
So that's terrific. Great news for everybody. When it says, okay, so next question. When it says terminated, when we pull up their employee ID, does that mean they've been transferred out completely?
Completely is the key word that I would like to focus on. They may have been separated out, but correctly is the question. So it behooves you to look at the person org summary to confirm the type of reason that leaving agency used. And if they used the wrong reason, then reach out to that leaving agency and discuss that with them and put in a PPS ticket to get that fixed before you key your transfer in, so that we don't have a bigger mess to clean up as a result of these transactions not having the correct action reasons.
And if you're concerned that you don't have a contact at that agency, all HR directors were mailed contact information by DHRM comms in the last 2 weeks for the other DHR or for the other HR directors. So right now there should be a fairly recent HR director, distribution list that your HR director would have access to. We can also help you with those contacts if you need it, but that might be the quickest way for you to do that.
Isn't there also a query that could be used to see the benefits administrators in other agencies?
The benefit contact page, can you see that for other agencies?
For other agencies, it's not a query, but it is the benefit contact page.
All right.
Yes.
So that's if you needed the benefit
Yep.
contact, but in this case, they may really be looking for the HR contact.
Yep.
All right. All right. So next question. If another agency keys in a transfer a bit early, does the new agency have to wait until the day of the transfer to key in the new transfer?
No, they don't have to wait. They just they can key it in after. It's just the really important part is that the prior agency needs to key it in before the new agency. If they do it a bit early, that should not impact the benefits in any way. But I want to double check with Kelly, because she's the HR expert, that there isn't an HR impact to that.
There should not be if a future dated transfer out and then transfer in transactions are keyed. I think the system date might take a part of that, the date in which the transactions were actually keyed so that they're in the right sequence.
Right. So effective dating is really important here, right?
Yes.
So the sending agency would need to have, the effective date appropriate, right?
Yes.
Of that, disentanglement date, and then the receiving agency would need to have that future dated effective row. Correct. Okay. So we have an interfacing agency, and they send transfers in the day they become active in our system. How do we confirm that that person has been transferred out of their old agency?
They have to log in and look. The only way to know is to log in and confirm that the sending agency has already keyed that transfer out. You may want to discuss your interface program. Is it necessary to send that transfer in on the exact day of, the first pay period, or the exact day in which that employee is becoming effective, or can you hold that another day or two to give those other agencies, the sending agencies, time to key their transfer out? So that may be an opportunity for you to talk with your IT group that handles your interface program, and discuss maybe a massaging of how you're handling those transfer ins.
All right, we still have more questions here. So it sounds like you need to either come look in the system for interfacing agencies or pick up the phone and figure out if that agency transferred in. It sounds like maybe looking in the system might be a little bit easier. When an employee transfers out / terminates from a true state agency to a local choice non-state agency, is it a transfer out in, or is it a term hire? For instance, from the community college to county public school system.
That would be a term and a hire. The localities are not state agencies. They are completely separate entities to state government, and the healthcare plans are also completely different. So, if someone is going to a locality, that would be a term resignation for the leaving agency and a hire new for the locality agency.
All right, just a few more questions and we're going to go back into the benefits section. When should we use a hire/reinstatement versus a hire/rehire? This might be a DHRM policy question.
So a hire/rehire is not a true transaction. A rehire is, a rehire transfer in is, but the reinstatements, I agree that needs to be a policy discussion. There are some very specific reasons why you would use a reinstatement. So in that scenario, I would inquire with the DHRM policy team.
All right. So 2 more questions and then we'll go back to Jill. When an employee is transferring back to an agency they previously worked at, would they be considered a rehire with a reason or a transfer in?
Okay, so if they're coming back into the agency in which they previously already have a salaried info record, salaried is key, then that would be a rehire back into that salaried info record. The reason would depend upon whether or not this person is coming back from a previous agency into your agency, which would be then a transfer in with whichever type, whether it be a lateral or a promotion. Or if it is a rehire with a break-in service, then it would be a rehire.
All right. Last question. I had an employee transfer in on the 10th. The old agency just keyed the transfer today. I was waiting on it to come over. From my understanding, I will not have to key the benefits, just the transfer.
And that would be correct if you had done all that after Monday of next week. We are not moving in this change until Monday, so you will still need to ensure that the benefits are keyed for any transfer event that has happened prior to this coming Monday. So that means there is going to be a transition period for things that were keyed prior to Monday that both you will need to look out for, and our team as well will look out for those events, and and send little reminders to you all that you need to get those cleaned up. And then eventually over the next few weeks, those will be fewer and fewer as we move forward with transfers that have happened after Monday. So let's talk about our little roadmap that we have here. You can see we already talked about the HR admin's responsibility for the sending agency, and for the receiving agency, we also talked about the HR admin's responsibility. Now we've moved on to benefits, and you'll notice in our roadmap that the sending agency's BA is not listed. And that is on purpose because the sending agency BA doesn't really have a lot of responsibility in this process. The XFO event, so when the HR person keys that termination transfer out, that XFO event is automatically created and entered into the employee's record. And the sending agency BA will not need to update this event in any way. That XFO event will be automatically processed and closed by the system. So there's really no responsibility as far as the sending agency's BA when it comes to the transfer out, okay? Now let's talk about that XFO event and what it's doing to make sure we all understand. So again, that XFO event is automatically created when the correct transfer out action reason is used, and it's automatically processed again by the system and closed. Now, when that event is processed and closed, it is going to terminate retirement, deferred compensation, and your annuity plans. And it will continue your health, premium rewards, FSA, and imputed life. All right. Now, let's talk about the receiving agency's VA responsibilities. Now, here it's saying that you need to validate the benefit enrollment. So we just said in this prior slide that what that XFO event is supposed to do is terminate the retirement, deferred comp, and annuity plans and leave the other plans as they were before. So when I say that it's the benefit administrator's responsibility to validate the benefit enrollment, you're validating that that process has happened correctly. And if you see that all the benefits have terminated, that's your first key that, oh, maybe those action reasons weren't correct. So let's move on and see what the exact responsibilities are. So the XFR event, which is what is created when that new job record is established in your agency, what that's going to do is evaluate your new job location to check for HMO eligibility. So if you have a transferring employee who used to work up in Virginia Beach and has access to Kaiser, and now they have been transferred into a job that is located in Richmond, then chances are pretty good, if the employee is moving and not commuting from Virginia Beach, that they are going to lose access to that HMO plan. So that XFR event is going to evaluate that. That event is going to stay open for 14 days, and that 14 days is to allow for the receiving agency BA to evaluate if a health change is necessary. And it will automatically close after 14 days after the transfer date. And the transferring employee will be notified via confirmation statement that will be generated in the system. So you might be asking yourself, why close the event after 14 days? It's closed after 14 days to provide the employee ample time to respond if they have lost eligibility for the HMO plan, because that was considered a qualifying event. You have the 30-day period. We wanted to notify the employee at day 14 so that they have time to respond to that termination, get their form to the agency BA so that they can establish a new plan. And then another question we thought you might ask is, why send a confirmation statement? Well, issuing the confirmation statement, it really serves two purposes. It provides the employee a documented record of their benefits upon transferring to that new agency. And then it also reinforces the notification process when their HMO plan ends. And it reduces the reliance on the agency BAs for notifying the employee when their HMO plan ends. Okay, let's talk specifically about the receiving agency's responsibility. So reviewing incoming employees' benefits is what we're saying is your responsibility here. And so when an employee transfers, obviously, to that new agency, it's really imperative that the agency BA ensures that the transaction's done correctly from a benefits perspective to just avoid the disruption to the employee. Now, what that means is you're going to need to review the employee's benefits and ensure that you don't see a termination for health, premium awards, FSA, the fee, and imputed life on their record. And then you also at the same time want to ensure that you see a termination under retirement savings accounts. And those, of course, would be the first of the month following their actual transfer. You're also going to want to review the HMO eligibility changes. Now, if you look at the employees' health benefits who are transferring in and you see that they're not enrolled in an HMO plan, you really don't need to worry about this step. But we want to put it here just in case the person is actually enrolled in the HMOs. All right, so now I want to touch place on a demo. Now this demo is going to be a little bit different than what we normally do. A lot of times we'll show you exactly how to process a transaction. Here we're just kind of going to show you what pages to go to review the employee's benefits, to see maybe what an agency's benefits administrator contact is, things like that. So bear with me while I get rid of this presentation and log into our testing system. I have. All right, so let me first, there was a question earlier on how do I find out who the other agency's agency BA is. So let me first show you where you would go to see that. So I am right now at the main screen for Cardinal. I've clicked on the navigator and I am going to click on benefits. And then if I scroll down and click on employer information and then BA contacts, and there's a business unit search here. I'm going to do 501 and hit search. And you'll see here that I have I believe 501 is VDOT, correct? VDOT has several different groups within them, but you can see here that the business unit's here. And if I click on any one of these, I will see the benefits administrator for that particular place. I am going to.
Can I ask a question, Jill, while you're on that?
Yep.
Isn't it true that about 80% of the HR administrators are also benefits administrators?
That is true. Yeah. So if you are unable, if you're looking for the HR administrator on a list, don't find it, come here and look up the benefits administrator, and you got an 80% chance of getting your person. And if not, I'm sure the benefits administrator will point you in the right direction. Yep. Excellent point, Kelly. All right, so let's go back to our demo, and we are going to go into a little imaginary world here where where you are the BA here, and you just are wondering, okay, Jill, great presentation, by the way, but how am I going to tell? How am I going to know who I need to reach out to? How am I going to know when somebody transfers into my agency? It's not like a light goes off at my desk. So I'm going to show you a report that you can run that will show you when those events are out there to be acted upon. So right now I am at the menu. I'm going to go all the way back to the top. And I'm going to click on Benefits, Manage Automated Enrollment, and then Investigate Exceptions. There's a report at the bottom, Benefit Event Status Report. Now, those of you who have listened to my presentations before know that I use the same run control for every single report I run, and it's called Jill. So I'm going to hit Jill and put Jill in the run control here and hit search. Now, I've run this report about 1 million times, so it's already pre-populated. If any of you have difficulty running reports or maybe have never run a report in Cardinal, at the end of this presentation, which we will send out later, there is a job aid that lists exactly how to run a report, and so that will help you. But here on the benefit event status report, it's a little bit overwhelming, right? There's a lot of fields, but I have it set up. Obviously, always schedule ID will be EM00 event maintenance. And then I have a from and a to date. And in this case, I'm looking for open events, right? That have happened with an event date between 9/25/2023 and it was as of a couple days ago, the last time I ran it. And I'm just going to, I'll leave it that way, I guess. And then obviously open events. Now it says here, leave all boxes unchecked to include all events. I really don't want to do that. I'm specifically looking for events that I need to do something with that have been prepared and are open for me to do something with. So I have clicked prepared here. I don't really need to look at anything else other than that. So I'm going to hit save and I'm going to run this report. Now this process schedule request, I always tell people just click OK, no need to worry about this thing. It's just telling the system to go ahead and run the report right now. And you can see here, right now is right now. All right. So now that that report has run, and it shouldn't take long to look at, I have access to everybody in the system, but you will just have access to your agencies. I'm going to quickly open this report up. And just a little public service announcement, all of the people that are going to show on this report are fake people. So no need to worry about anyone's name and ID being shown here. So this report, as you can see, is going to list everybody in your agency who has an open event. Now here you can see Jane Smith has a transfer event that's open, Craig Payne has a transfer event is open, and Ted Lasso has a hire event. So you can instantly see everybody in your agency who has an open event out there. Now, if people had babies and maybe had done some self-service data entry on that, you'd be able to see the life events here as well. I like this report because it's a great way for me to see in one place every kind of event, benefit event that is potentially going down in my agency, and I can kind of keep track of my hires and maybe remind them, when the 30-day window is going to close. It really is just a really nice report that allows you to see what's going on from a benefit event perspective in your agency. So what I would do here, if I'm a receiving agency BA, I am going to see that there's a couple of transfer events out here, and so I'm just going to click on my ID, copy it, and then I might go look at this person's benefit record. Now I can see that the event date for this transfer is 9/25, so it was a bit ago. So in order to look at this person's benefits, because the event was in the past, I can just go right to the benefit event summary, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to go up to menu. I'm going to go to benefits, review employee benefits, and then current benefit summary. And the reason why I can go to this current benefit summary is because that transfer happened in late September and would have been, all the benefit changes would have been effective 10/1, and today is 11/16. So I know that this is the current benefit summary will show the person's current benefits. Now, if I go here and I look, I can see that the medical, all of the imputed life, everything that was supposed to continue has continued. And I can see that the VRS benefits have terminated. I see everything here, it looks as it should. So I can see from this report that this person, Jane Smith, is looking okay. Now, Craig Payne, let's look at Craig and see if we can see what's going on with Craig. So you see the transfer date is 11/7. So that means any benefits that are going to be terminated are going to have a 12/1 date. So I really can't look at the current benefit summary for Craig because the current benefit summary will only show me what Craig has today. And because his termination dates are, in the past, it's not really going to show me anything. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that if you are dealing with a transfer and that transfer benefit impact is going to be in the future, for example, in this case, 12/1, you can't really look at the current benefit summary to evaluate the benefits and look at them. You need to look at the actual individual health benefit rows. Now I'm going to go and show you how to do that. So I'm at the main menu and I'm just going to click on benefits, enroll in benefits, and then here I have a listing of all the benefits here, and I can look here under health and I can see that his health is terminated as of 12/1. Now that is my first hint that something has gone wrong with Craig. And so I can see that when the agency transferred him out, instead of using the transfer out, they just terminated him, which terminated all of his benefits that he had. And so what we need to do here is you need to get in touch with that former agency, let them know that this was in fact a transfer and a PPS ticket needs to be sent in. So really looking at the benefits and what happened to the benefits will tell you everything you need to know about whether the action reasons were done correctly or not. And to Kelly's point, if you are hiring the person into your agency and you see right away that termination is done incorrectly, it's good to do that before this, before it gets to the BA portion and everything has gone wrong. It's best as you're hiring the employee, if you see something's wrong, to get that PPS ticket in right away. But so you can see here that there's a couple of different ways to look at those benefits. One is the benefit summary, and that's only if the transfer is in the past. And then the other is looking at these benefit pages. Now, for an excellent explanation on how to look all this stuff up, we want to let you know that posted on Monday will be an updated job aid. And I just want to show you really briefly. Let me see if I can open that up. This is the infamous Benefits Quick Reference Guide. I say infamous because we intended it to be a very quick little teeny little guide, but what it turned into is almost like a benefits Bible, which has a whole bunch of different things in it, but it will be quick for you. If you're looking for one particular thing to do, you can go to this table of contents and you'll notice here, and this is on Monday, this will be published, we have added some sections. So where you see, you used to see terminate transfer out on page 21, you now see everything has been broken out. You have process benefit elections, terminate employee, and then you have these two new sections, transfer out employee and transfer in employee. Now each one of these sections, and I'm just going to go to page, let me go to 24, which is transfer out, and I'll do that fairly quickly here. Let's see here. 24, getting there. Okay, so what you will see is a very detailed way for you to look at benefits. And at the very end, let me get there, you will have a little explanation on how to look at benefit pages. So I want to quickly, there we go. Sorry about that. I didn't realize I was displaying multiple pages, which is a teeny bit confusing. Let me get to it. Promise I will eventually find it. Okay. Here we go. So here it gives the listing for how to get to the current benefit summary, but then it gives you all of the individual benefit pages that you can go to if you need to look at future dated benefit enrollment. So look forward to getting that the new benefit quick reference guide published on Monday. So it might be a good idea for you, those of you who had already downloaded it and printed it, to put a little note in your to-do list on Monday to go to the website and download this guide, because there probably isn't just this change. There's probably been a few other changes since the last time you downloaded it. All right. So that really concludes my demo, Jolene.
We have some questions.
Okay.
So, all right. Let's start with how will benefits be affected by the middle of the month transfer?
How will benefits be affected by a middle of the month? That's a great question, actually, because there is some changes. We're actually going to talk about it in a minute, but some of you might have noticed with the current transfer that some of the benefit deductions from an employee's paycheck would have stopped early. And that actually isn't going to happen anymore, because we are not stopping the health deduction and those deductions. So you're going to see that little issue go away, which is nice. We'll get into the payroll implications in just a little bit, but from a benefits perspective, that's the only change that you'll see. Kelly, from a HR perspective, mid-month transfers, I think they encourage you to do them up on the pay period start. Other than that, is there any specific guidance you can give?
No, I mean, there is a payroll impact if you're doing, if employees are moving from one agency to the other in the middle of the month, requires both agencies to have to process a partial paycheck using a spot transaction. So, if you can get these, these transfers and hires, to fall at the first day of the pay period, it does alleviate some of that manual work that's required by payroll. That's my first thought on that.
Okay. And other questions, too?
All right, well, we have some very specific questions, so you have to reflect back on what you said and what you showed.
Okay.
So the retirement DB should not be terminated and should be effective for 10/1 in the sample. Is that correct?
The retirement, correct. That is correct. Yep, it should be.
All right.
Yep.
The retirement.
The defined benefit. Yep.
That was some special benefit lexicon I wasn't aware of. So,
Oh, yeah.
all right.
We
Thank
got
you.
an acronym for everything around here.
That's awesome. All right. So then this was a two-part question. They didn't understand why transfers don't have an option to change their retirement plan. And then they went on to say they guessed that it would feed VRS again. Normally we don't key retirement transactions. They normally feed over from VRS. So maybe touch on that briefly, Jill.
Yeah, that's correct. In fact, that actually and we're gonna continue with this question, but there is the next slide we're gonna talk about that. But we get all of our retirement enrollments from the system of record, which is VNAV. So what happens is when you establish that job record in Cardinal for your new transferred employee, that information feeds over to VRS, and VRS feeds over to us the new enrollment. So there's no opportunity for the BA to change the enrollment because that information comes directly from the VNAV system into Cardinal. Okay, so right on topic, our last question, coordinating retirement savings plan enrollments. So for agencies that interface job changes to VNAV, it's really the agency's responsibility when they, when they establish that new record in Cardinal to review the cancel records report for missing changes, and if necessary, manually enter the job changes into VNAV. So what does that mean? It means that if you've entered a job into Cardinal, a new job for a transferring employee, that evening, there's going to be a interface that goes over to the VNAV system that establishes that new record in your agency. Now, there's an error report that is created if that transaction isn't able to be loaded for some reason into the VNAV system, right? And VNAV sends those reports to you, the cancel records reports, and it's your responsibility as an agency to review that report. And if for some reason your newly established record isn't established in VNAV from the Cardinal interface, you need to establish it manually, all right? And so once you've established that manually, then the next day, VNAV will feed over that new enrollment into Cardinal, all right? The second piece of it, right, is to inform the transferring employee that they will need to re-enroll in their annuity and deferred compensation plans. Now, it's not your responsibility to enroll them, but you do want to notify them that they do need to re-enroll. All right. Now, a special note, we have been finding that when the agencies are manually entering changes into the VNAV system because of the cancel record reports, they are not entering the employee IDs correctly into VNAV. They might be only entering 9 digits. They might just be making a typo, but it's very important if you are working the cancel record report and having to manually enter information into VNAV, that you make sure, double and triple check that the Cardinal employee ID is correct. And just to add some context to that, we look at the reports on a daily basis, and just last week we had 17 employees that had the wrong EMPL ID number. So it's very important to get that, to double check that. All right. So let's talk just a minute about, again, about fixing errors. So if for some reason, like our Craig Payne, if you find that the receiving agency, you're the receiving agency, but you found that the sending agency didn't have the right action reason code and this person's really a transfer, or you find that your agency perhaps keyed a new hire instead of a transfer, the only way to fix that issue is a Cardinal PPS ticket. Now, what we're going to do, and you're going to notice the list is a little longer here, once it's gotten to the receiving agency portion, when you find out there's an error, is we're going to obviously fix the employee's job record. We're going to create the correct benefit event for the employee. We're going to reestablish any incorrectly terminated benefits. And then we're going to work with OHB to notify the vendors if necessary to reinstate the coverage on their system. So like Kelly said, if you can fix that error right away before we get to the benefits piece of it, it's a little simpler. But once we get to this point where they've transferred out, they've transferred in, and the benefits have kind of gotten messed up a little bit, it's a little harder to fix. That's not, we're not going to complain to you about fixing it. Of course, we want you to, to use the right action reason code, but it's really important that we get those tickets so that we can correct them correctly. All right. So we alluded earlier to payroll impacts. So let's talk quickly about payroll impacts of this change. So having the healthcare, the rewards, the life, the FSA plans continue does have a little bit of a payroll impact. First of all, Cardinal sending agencies will no longer have the payroll deductions end one pay period early. I know that caused some pain points for you folks. And then the receiving agency, if you are paying that employee their first paycheck within the month that they are actually transferring, you might need to do some payroll adjustments to prevent the deductions from coming out of your employee's paycheck, so the health deductions. Now, but if the health premiums do come out of that first receiving agency's paycheck early, before they would have been effective in your agency, the healthcare recon will identify those transactions if you're on Cardinal payroll, and the automatic adjustments to the employer paid piece will automatically be made for you. Now, of course, if a deduction does come out of an employee's paycheck and it's their piece of the payment, you'll have to work on getting that refunded to the employee if necessary. Okay. And just a recap. So by using the correct action reason combos for both the outgoing and the incoming agencies, employees will no longer lose health insurance, premium rewards, FSA when they transfer. Agency BAs will no longer need to enroll the employees in those plans as long as the correct action reasons have been used. And any corrections to action reason combinations done in error will need to be sent to PPS to correct. All right. We've come to that time, Jolene.
Yeah, we have a couple more questions. Will leave balances transfer or will they need to be added manually?
So we did have a discussion about this, and Kelly, do you want to handle this one?
Sure, yes. Leave balances will need to be added manually. So the process that's been in place for a very long time, that the sending agencies, figures out what that final leave balance is, and then sends that to the receiving agency for that TA administrator to enter as a starting balance for that transfer in will still be in place.
When an employee transfers and the employee needs to re-enroll for a voluntary HB contribution, will the enrollment be immediate or will it be effective with the next available quarter?
It will. The VRS feeds in the enrollment into Cardinal. So VRS handles the effective dates. Any policy on when the hybrid plans are effective come directly from them, and it will not be changing. Yeah, it will be on the quarter.
All right, so on the quarter. Will an agency who has the employee on the first of the month still be responsible for the entire month's premium?
They are employed in that agency as of the first of the month. They will be responsible for the entire month's premium.
All right, great. Okay. Why don't we head over to the next slide? We're at the end of our questions right now. So from an additional support perspective, you've come to recognize that at each of these forums, we're going to identify what we think are the most pertinent job aids, queries, reports, etc., for these processes. So at the top is the HR job aid for managing interagency transfers. I believe this has already been updated and is up on the website. Looking for nods from the room, and the answer is yes. So you can go out there and you can see that. As Jill alluded to earlier, the quick reference guide, which has been available for since the release 1 go live, is also out on the website, but it has not been updated. There are a few updates that need to be made. You should expect to see these Monday. So if you come back in on Monday, note it on your calendar. If you are a benefits administrator and you've used this guide, it's a little bit different than our job aids. It's not necessarily step-by-step. All of our job aids are typically lots of screenshots, lots of step-by-step, so you can follow it outside of class. The quick reference guide is not exactly quick. It's long, 55 pages, but it goes through a lot of different material and has highlights on all of those pieces and guidelines and directions. And then we did allude to earlier the BA contacts, and just a reminder, because you all don't have enough to do already, if your BA contacts are out of date, you may want to go in there and update those contacts. OHB needs them, your colleagues over at the other agency, and also the Cardinal team to reach out to individuals. So use that BA contacts job aid to update the contacts at your agency. From a query and reports perspective, we've highlighted the benefits status report, which can identify open events for your agency. And I believe Jill was showing us that page and that report earlier. And then the reports catalog, in case you can't remember where to access those particular reports or queries, they do have the path in on the reports catalog. We've highlighted the benefits report catalog here, but you can also go look up the HR catalog in case you need a little brush up. At the bottom, if it's been a while since you have run a query or a report, we've linked both of those job aids to help you. That would tell you if you needed a little refresher while Jill was running through how to run that benefit event status report when she was setting up her run control and through the process monitor. It's not intuitive. That's hard, but use the job aid and it'll show you the step-by-steps there, so there would be no confusion. Additional support. So we referenced several times today about entering a ticket, submitting a ticket. The best way to get in contact with us at the Cardinal team, sometimes we refer to ourselves as the post-production support team or PPS. That's kind of an internal acronym that we like to use, but it's all the same. If you put Cardinal in the subject line, it automatically routes to us. We'd like to encourage you to put a brief summary in that subject line as well, so we kind of know where to route those particular tickets. If it's an HR ticket or a benefit ticket or a payroll ticket, that information helps us. If you email us that information, that is the best way to get in contact with us versus calling up VCCC. Please don't do that. We don't get all the information. In your email, please include the functional area, as much information as possible, and always include your name, email address, and the best contact phone number. That doesn't always come through because. For policy eligibility and general questions related to benefits, we have OHB's contact information here, and they've also asked for you, if you do send an email, to be very specific about information that you're including in that email on the next iteration of this deck. And for everybody else, we are grateful that you came and spent time with us today. We really are excited about the changes that are coming Monday. So hold on everything. It doesn't start till Monday. Keep doing business as is. But on Monday, you'll be able to utilize this new process. It's very exciting. Again, grateful for your time. Thank you for joining us today. Goodbye.